Picture this. God is not random. He is the God of appointment, the God of order, the God who moves according to his modem, his appointed times. From the first page of Scripture to the last, he declares the end from the beginning, and he marks his works with a calendar not of man, but of heaven. The rabbis knew it, the apostles knew it, and the prophets thundered it. There is an appointed time for everything under heaven. When Messiah came the first time, he did not arrive on a random day. He came as the Lamb on the exact day of Passover. He rose on the Feast of Firstfruits. The Spirit came down not on some arbitrary afternoon, but on Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. Every act was a fulfillment, a divine appointment set before the foundation of the world. And if God fulfilled the spring feasts in the first coming of Messiah, will he not fulfill the fall feasts in his second coming? We stand now before the Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah. It is the most mysterious of all the feasts. It is the only feast that begins at the new moon, the only one that no man could know the day or the hour until the sliver of the moon was sighted. Does that sound familiar? Messiah said, "No man knows the day or the hour," a Hebrew idiom understood by his disciples to mean the Feast of Trumpets. And what is Yom Teruah? It is the feast of the shofar, the awakening blast, the voice that pierces the heavens and calls God's people to gather. It is the feast that marks the coronation of the king and the opening of the heavenly books. It is a feast not of endings, but of beginnings. The shofar blast is not just a sound, it is a summons. In the wilderness, it called the people to assemble before the presence of God. In battle, it was the cry of alarm and the signal for victory. At Jericho, it was the sound that brought down walls. And in the last days, it will be the sound that breaks open the heavens and calls the bride to the bridegroom. Paul calls it the last trump. John hears it as a voice like a trumpet saying, "Come up here." September 2025 will align with the Feast of Trumpets. Think of that. The very feast that the rabbis called the Day of the Awakening Blast. The very feast tied to the resurrection of the righteous and the catching away of God's people. The very feast that begins the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, 10 days of repentance, before the Day of Atonement, the Day of Judgment. In the ancient Hebrew mind, Yom Teruah was the day when the bridegroom would come suddenly, unannounced, and carry the bride away to the place he had prepared. It is no accident. Throughout history, when God acts in a way that changes the course of his people, it happens on his appointed times. The Red Sea crossing took place in the season of Passover. The giving of the law came on Shavuot. The dedication of the temple took place on Sukkot. These are not coincidences. They are divine appointments. And now the prophetic calendar moves toward the next great appointment. In 1 Thessalonians 4, Paul reveals the mystery, for the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Messiah will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up. Do you see it? It is the pattern of Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets. This is why September 2025 matters, not because we can set the exact day or hour, but because the season points toward a convergence, a culmination of signs, and a feast that was made for this very purpose. The Hebrew calendar, the prophetic pattern, the words of Messiah, the writings of Paul, they all align. And here's the mystery. The Feast of Trumpets was also called the Hidden Day. It was a feast shrouded in mystery, kept secret until the moment of its beginning. The priests waited, eyes fixed on the horizon, searching for the first glimpse of the moon. Once it was seen, the shofar was sounded and the feast began. Only those watching would know. Only those ready would hear the call. So what happens when the king fulfills this feast? What happens when the shofar of God resounds in the heavens? The bride is taken, the gates are shut, the world is left in awe and terror. That is why Messiah gave the warning. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. So be sought. In the days of Noah, the world went on eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day the flood came. In the days of Lot, they went on buying and selling, planting and building, until fire fell from heaven. And so it will be in the day the Son of Man is revealed. The appointment will come, not early, not late, but in the fullness of God's timing. This is the God who appoints the exact day the Lamb would die, the exact day the Spirit would fall, and the exact day the King will come for his own. And if all the appointed times so far have been fulfilled with exact precision, dare we think the last ones will be any less exact? Beloved, the time is not far. The calendar is converging. The Feast of Trumpets approaches in September 2025. Heaven's appointment book has not changed. The same God who set the stars in their place, who ordained the feasts, who fulfills his word down to the very day, he will not miss his own appointment. The question is not whether the day will come, the question is whether you will be ready when it does. Because when that shofar sounds, there will be no time left to prepare. The appointment will have arrived, and the King will come. From the first breath of Genesis to the last trumpet of Revelation, there runs a mystery, the mystery of the harpazo, the catching away, the taking up of God's own. It is not a random thought, not a theological side note. It is a pattern woven into the very fabric of Scripture, a shadow that appears again and again, until one day the shadow becomes reality. Look back. Before the flood came upon the earth, there was a man who walked with God, Enoch. He lived in an age of growing darkness, yet he was not swallowed by it. The word says simply, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. He was taken not by death, but by a divine act, lifted from the earth before judgment fell. That was the first glimpse of the mystery. Then came Elijah, the prophet, who would not taste death. His day came not with a warning from man, but with the whisper of God. He crossed the Jordan with Elisha. And suddenly the chariots of fire appeared. The whirlwind descended, and Elijah was taken up into the heavens. Again the pattern, the righteous removed before the shaking to come. Even Noah testifies to it. Though he was not taken from the earth, he was lifted above it, above the waters of judgment, sealed inside the ark by the hand of God. Lot too was taken out of Sodom before the fire fell. Over and over, God reveals this truth. Before the day of his wrath, he removes his own. Paul knew this mystery. In 1 Corinthians 15, he writes, Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. He connects it directly to a sound, the shofar of God, the trumpet blast of Yom Teruah. It is not merely a call to gather. It is the summons of heaven for the redeemed to come home. This is not man ascending to heaven by his own striving. This is heaven descending for man. The Lord himself will descend from heaven. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 4, with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God. The sequence is clear. The king leaves his throne. The trumpet resounds. The dead in Messiah rise first, and then those who are alive and remain are caught up, harpazo, seized away into the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we shall always be with him. The Greek word harpazo is not gentle. It means to snatch away suddenly, forcefully, like a soldier pulling someone from the battlefield, like a shepherd grabbing a lamb from the jaws of a predator. This is no slow departure. This is the sudden intervention of God in human history. One moment, the faithful are here. The next, they are gone. And here is the deeper mystery. The rapture is not an escape born of fear. It is a rescue born of love. The bridegroom comes for his bride before the hour of trial falls upon the world. In the ancient Jewish wedding, the groom would come at an unexpected hour, often in the night, with a shout and the sound of the shofar. The bride, if she was wise, kept her lamp burning, her garments ready, her ears attentive for the call. When he came, she would be lifted up, carried away to the place he had prepared. Messiah spoke this same pattern. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. The word receive is not passive. It is the act of taking to oneself, drawing close, carrying away. The rapture is the bridegroom receiving his bride. Even the timing follows the prophetic pattern. Before the flood came, God told Noah, "Come into the ark, you and all your household." Before Sodom burned, angels took Lot by the hand and led him out. Before Jericho fell, Rahab was brought into safety. The judge of all the earth does not sweep away the righteous with the wicked. He delivers them, then judgment falls. And this is why the harpazo is tied to the trumpet. The trumpet is both a signal and a boundary. It gathers the people, but it also marks the change of season. In Numbers, the trumpet was blown to assemble the congregation, to break camp, and to begin the journey. In the same way, the rapture trumpet will assemble the redeemed, break them from the camp of this world, and begin the journey to the King's house. The world will not understand it. The moment will come like a thief in the night, but for those who belong to Him, it will not be darkness. It will be the long-awaited call. It will be the moment when mortality is swallowed up by life, when corruption puts on incorruption, when the last tear is wiped away. This is why Paul says, "Encourage one another with these words, not to speculate in vain, not to debate the day endlessly, but to live in readiness. For if the pattern has held true for every shadow of the harpazo in the past, it will hold true for the final reality. The Lord will not delay beyond His appointed time." And in the days ahead, as September 2025 draws near, the signs of this mystery converge. The season of the trumpet, the prophetic calendar, the trembling of the nations, the voice of the bridegroom drawing nearer. If the shout were to come tonight, would you be ready? If the shofar sounded this moment, would you rise to meet Him? For the day will come, and it will not be delayed. And when it does, the pattern will be complete. The righteous taken, the bride carried away, the King glorified, and the earth left to face what must come next. When the harpazo comes, there will be no second call. The trumpet will sound once. The bridegroom will come once. And those who are ready will go with Him into the wedding feast. And the door will be shut forever. Lift up your eyes, for the signs are not hidden. They are written across the heavens and engraved upon the earth. Messiah said, "There shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity." We are the generation that has seen these words come alive. The heavens are God's billboard. They are the scroll He stretches out above the nations. In the beginning, it was said that the lights in the heavens would be for signs and seasons, and the word for seasons is modim, the appointed times of God. So when the sun darkens and the moon turns blood red, it is not for the sake of spectacle, it is a sign of the times, a trumpet in the sky. In recent years, we have seen the blood moons, not randomly scattered, but falling exactly on the appointed feasts of the Lord, Passover and Sukkot, one after another. We have witnessed solar eclipses, tracing paths across the land, as if heaven were drawing lines of warning. The ancient rabbis said that a lunar eclipse was a sign to Israel, a solar eclipse a sign to the nations. And we have seen both. The stars themselves declare the approach of the King, just as a celestial sign marked the birth of Messiah in Bethlehem, so the heavens align again in these last days. The Revelation 12 sign, the woman clothed with the sun, the moon at her feet, appeared in our generation. And while the world dismissed it, those who know the Scriptures saw the echo of prophecy. But it is not only in the heavens. The earth itself groans. The birth pains Messiah spoke of are here in the shaking of the ground, the roaring of the seas, the rising of plagues, the collapse of the natural order. Earthquakes have multiplied in intensity and in places where the ground once stood still. Storms have grown fierce beyond measure. Fires have swept across lands as if creation itself were crying out. And the nations, have you not seen them tremble? Wars and rumors of wars fill the headlines. Alliances shift like sand. The ancient hatred against Israel rises again, as the prophets foretold. Jerusalem, the city of God, is again the burdensome stone around which the nations gather. Zechariah saw it. "I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling to all the surrounding peoples, and all the nations of the earth will gather against it." This is not the news cycle. This is the fulfillment of the word. In our own day, we have watched as the nations signed accords and broke them, as threats echo from the mountains of Persia to the deserts of Arabia. We have heard the roar from the north, from the land of Gog and Magog, stirring in ways not seen in generations. And in the center of it all is Israel, the prophetic clock of God ticking toward the appointed hour. The moral state of the world itself is a sign. Paul said that in the last days perilous times would come, and men would be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, proud, blasphemers, disobedient, without natural affection. Open your eyes. We live in a culture that celebrates what God calls shame, that denies what he calls truth, that mocks the very idea of holiness. The days of Noah are here again. The days of Lot are here again. And Messiah said that just as it was in those days, so it will be when the Son of Man is revealed. Even creation mirrors the prophecy. The rivers dry up as the Euphrates has begun to recede, a detail written in Revelation. Species vanish. Pestilences cross borders in hours, shaking economies and governments. Technology now gives man the power to control buying and selling, to track every transaction, another shadow of the mark foretold by John. And all these signs, though they seem scattered, are not separate. They converge. Like streams running down a mountain, they flow into one great river, leading to one appointed moment. The heavens declare it. The earth confirms it. The nations play their part, even in rebellion. All is moving toward the day when the trumpet will sound and the sky will open. Some say, but these things have always happened. Yes, earthquakes have always shaken, wars have always burned, but never have they come together at once with such speed, such intensity, such global scope, never until now. Just as birth pains increase until the moment of delivery, so the signs multiply as the coming of the King draws near. And here lies the urgency. Signs are for those who can see. The Pharisees could read the sky for weather, but they missed the signs of Messiah's first coming. Messiah rebuked them, saying, "You know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. These signs are not given to entertain, they are given to awaken." If you ignore them, you will be like those in Noah's day, who saw the clouds gather but went on with their banquets until the flood came. If you discern them, you will be like the watchman on the wall, sounding the alarm, ready for the arrival of the King. In September 2025, the Feast of Trumpets will sound its appointed blasts. It will do so in a world already filled with the noise of war, the trembling of the earth, and the shouts of rebellion against heaven. And in that season, the signs will speak louder than ever. The question is, will you be watching the sky? Will you hear the trumpet when it sounds from heaven? For when the signs converge, the day is near, and when the day comes, it will be sudden. The trumpet will sound, the dead will rise, and those who are alive and ready will be caught up. And those who were deaf to the signs will be left to face the storm that follows. There is a mystery in the cycles of God, a rhythm that began in the Torah and has never ceased to beat. It is the mystery of the Jubilee, the year of release, of restoration, of return. Every 50th year the shofar was sounded, and its blast would echo through the land. Debts were wiped away. Slaves were set free. Land that had been lost was returned to its original owner. It was a year unlike any other, a year that belonged not to man, but to the Lord. The Jubilee was not simply an economic arrangement. It was a prophetic shadow of what is to come. In the Jubilee, everything returned to its rightful place. In the end of days, all creation will return to its rightful owner. In the Jubilee, the people were set free from bondage. In the end, the redeemed will be set free from the bondage of corruption, to share in the liberty of the glory of the children of God. Now, what happens when you connect the Jubilee to the last trumpet? In Leviticus 25, the command is given, "You shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land." The trumpet of the Jubilee was a shofar of release, a declaration that what was lost is now restored. But Paul speaks of another trumpet, the last trump. In the mystery of God, the two are linked, for at the last trumpet the greatest release will come. The dead will be raised, and the living will be transformed. Consider the timing. In the ancient Hebrew calendar, the Jubilee trumpet was not sounded at the start of the year, but in the middle on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, following the Feast of Trumpets. It was the culmination of a sacred cycle, the final note in the sequence of blasts. The last trumpet marked the end of captivity and the beginning of freedom, and so it will be when the final trumpet of heaven sounds. We are now approaching a prophetic cycle that points to September 2025. Count back through history, the Six-Day War in 1967, when Jerusalem returned to the hands of Israel. Jubilee, go back another 50 years, 1917. The Balfour Declaration, when the land began to return to the Jewish people, Jubilee. Another 50 years earlier, 1867, the land of Israel opened for Jewish resettlement, Jubilee. And now, from 1975, the next 50th year would bring us to this appointed season. These are not random numbers, they are the fingerprints of God's calendar. The Jubilee is also tied to inheritance. In the final redemption, the bride will inherit the place prepared for her. In John 14, Messiah says, "I go to prepare a place for you, and I will come again to receive you to myself." That is Jubilee language. What was promised is now possessed. The trumpet does not only call us out, it calls us in. It calls us to take possession of the eternal inheritance purchased by the blood of the Lamb. And here is another mystery. The Jubilee trumpet was not for everyone. It was a blessing to the enslaved, but to the oppressor, it meant loss. It was joy to the one in debt, but to the lender it meant the end of gain. So it will be when the last trumpet sounds. For those in Messiah, it will be the sound of freedom, of restoration, of eternal joy. But for the world in rebellion, it will be the beginning of great loss, the removal of light from the earth. The last trump Paul speaks of is not just a military trumpet, it is the concluding note in the sequence of God's prophetic appointments. The Feast of Trumpets begins with a series of blasts, but there is one final, long, unbroken blast called the Tekaya Gedolah, the Great Blast. It is the sound that seals the feast. This is the picture Paul paints in 1 Corinthians 15, the dead raised, the living changed, and the age sealed. And why September 2025? Because it aligns with the Feast of Trumpets in a prophetic cycle that carries the Jubilee shadow. If the return of Jerusalem was a Jubilee, if the restoration of the land was a Jubilee, then what could the next fulfillment be but the greatest restoration? The bride returning to the bridegroom, the redeemed returning to the place prepared for them. In the Jubilee, the land was given rest. In the rapture, the people of God will enter his rest. In the Jubilee, every chain was broken. In the catching away, every tie to this fallen world will be loosed. In the Jubilee, the shofar announced liberty. In the last day, the trumpet will declare the liberty of the sons of God, the final release from the corruption of mortality. We are not called to know the day or the hour, but we are called to know the season. And when the season aligns with the appointed times, with the cycles of God, with the signs in the heavens and on the earth, then the watchmen lift their voices. The Jubilee trumpet is a call to readiness. It says the time of your captivity is over. The time of your inheritance has come. So hear this. When the trumpet sounds, it will be the sound of completion. The accounts will be settled. The promises will be fulfilled. What was begun will be finished. And those who are his will rise not to return to what they had, but to receive what they were always meant to have. And the season of Jubilee is almost upon us. The pattern is complete. The cycles have been fulfilled. The only thing that remains is the blast, the Tekaya Gedolah, that will shake the heavens and the earth, that will call the redeemed home. When that trumpet sounds, the age will shift. What is now unseen will be seen. What is now hoped for will be possessed. And the greatest Jubilee of all time will begin. Not for 1 year, not for 50, but for eternity. There is a call going forth. A call not to the world, but to those who claim the name of Messiah. It is the call to awaken, for the time is late and the night is far spent. The shofar of heaven has not yet sounded, but the sound of its nearness is already in the air. And the danger now is not only in the darkness of the world, but in the slumber of God's people. Messiah told of 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. All 10 had lamps. All 10 were called to the wedding. All 10 fell asleep. And yet, when the cry came at midnight, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet him." Only 5 were ready. 5 had oil in their lamps, oil enough to burn through the darkness. The other 5 had lamps, but they were empty. They looked ready from the outside, but they had nothing inside to sustain the flame. This is the mystery of readiness. It is not about appearance, but about reality. The lamp is your outward life. The oil is the hidden life within, the anointing, the presence of God, the intimacy with Him that cannot be borrowed or faked. The wise virgins could not give their oil to the foolish, for no one can give you their relationship with God. It must be your own. When the shout came, it was sudden. There was no time to go out and buy oil. The foolish virgins ran to the marketplace, but by the time they returned, the door was shut. The wedding feast had begun. The bridegroom said, "I do not know you." They were invited, but they were not ready. And so Messiah gave the warning. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Watching is not passive, it is active. To watch is to live as if He could come at any moment. It is to keep the flame alive, to guard the oil, to be clothed and ready when the call comes. But in these days, the danger is great. Many have the form of godliness but deny its power. Many are busy with religious activity, yet their lamps are dry. They have traded oil for entertainment, prayer for distraction, holiness for compromise. And they believe they have time, but time is the one thing they do not control. We are living in the days when the love of many has grown cold. Iniquity abounds. The voices of the prophets are mocked. The urgency of the hour is dismissed. And yet in the midst of it, the bridegroom tarries, not to delay, but to give one more moment of mercy, one more chance for the foolish to become wise. The oil costs something. In the ancient world, it took time and crushing to produce it. So it is with the oil of the Spirit. It comes from the pressing place, from the Gethsemane of the soul. It is born in the secret place, in the choosing of God over the world, in the surrender of the will to the will of the King. This is why so few have it, because they do not want the cost. But without the oil, the lamp will go out. The midnight cry will not wait for you to prepare. It will come in a moment, and in that moment, you will either have oil or you will not. You will either rise to meet Him or be left behind the closed door. And once the door is shut, it will not open again. In the days of Noah, the ark stood open until the day came when God Himself shut the door. Those outside could not enter. So it will be again. The time to prepare is not when the trumpet sounds. The time to prepare is now. The oil must be gathered now. The lamp must be trimmed now. The garments must be kept white now. For the King will come at an hour you do not expect. And when He comes, you will not have time to get ready. You will only have time to go. The enemy knows the lateness of the hour, and so his strategy is to lull the watchman to sleep, to fill the air with noise, to keep your eyes on the distractions of the world rather than the signs of the times. He knows that if you lose your urgency, you will lose your readiness. But the Spirit is speaking to those who will hear, "Awake, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Messiah will give you light." The bridegroom is nearer than you think. The final preparations must be made. The oil must be full. The flame must be burning. Your heart must be set on His coming, not on the things that will soon pass away. For when the cry comes, whether in the stillness of night or in the light of day, those who are ready will rise with joy. They will hear the trumpet, see the King, and enter the wedding feast. And those who are not ready will stand in the darkness, pounding on a door that will not open. The greatest tragedy is not to miss an event. It is to miss Him. The greatest loss is not the loss of years on earth, but the loss of eternity with the bridegroom. And that loss will be permanent. So I say to you now, in the time of grace, trim your lamp, fill your vessel, keep watch. Do not measure your readiness by the world's clock, but by heaven's. The call to awaken has gone out. The next cry will be the final one. And when it comes, may you be among the wise who rise to meet Him in the air. The hour is late. The shadows grow long. The final act of the age is approaching, and the urgency of heaven is pressing upon the earth. The trumpet has not yet sounded, but the wind is already stirring in the trees. The signs are already converging, and the King is already at the threshold. This is not a time for delay, for hesitation, for half measures. This is the time to choose. Messiah spoke of the days before the flood. They ate, they drank, they married, they gave in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and swept them all away. He spoke of the days of Lot. They bought, they sold, they planted, they built, until the day Lot went out of Sodom, and fire came down from heaven. And then he said, so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. That day will come suddenly, without warning to those who are unprepared, but not without warning to those who watch. The urgency is this: the moment will not wait for you. The king will not delay his coming to suit the schedule of the sleeping. The trumpet will not sound twice. The door will not open again. You are either ready when he comes, or you are not. And that readiness is not built in an instant. It is built now in the days before the day. We are the first generation to see the convergence of all the signs spoken of in the scriptures: the regathering of Israel, the stirring of the nations against Jerusalem, the shaking of nature, the increase of knowledge, the rise of lawlessness, the global technology that can fulfill the words of Revelation. The pieces are not scattered anymore, they are in place. The stage is set, the actors are in position. The curtain is about to rise. And yet the greatest danger is not in the world, it is in the heart of the believer who thinks there is still time to waste. The enemy whispers, not yet, there is still tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised. The cry could come at midnight tonight. The trumpet could sound before the sun rises again. You do not prepare for a race after the gun has fired. You prepare before the sound is heard. September 2025 draws near. And whether it is the exact moment or the shadow of the moment, it is a season heavy with prophecy. The Feast of Trumpets will arrive again, just as it has every year, but this time in the midst of a world trembling with unrest and a creation groaning for redemption. If it is not the day itself, it is still the rehearsal for the day. And the wise do not treat rehearsals as meaningless. They treat them as the training ground for the final performance.